It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of August 23rd, 1996. And we've got 8 movies to look at, a lot of films to get to, so let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, John Frankenheimer's remake of The Island of Dr. Moreau. I honestly could delve into the huge production history behind this movie, but we'd be here for 3.5 hours going through that. So to basically sum it up, this was originally supposed to be directed by Richard Stanley. Richard Stanley was supposed to direct the film. Bruce Willis was originally supposed to play the character played by Val Kilmer in this movie, but he dropped out because of divorce procedures from Demi Moore at the time. And Willis was replaced by Kilmer, who was also had divorce papers put on him, and he had anger issues on the set. And then Rob Morrow quit the film because of script rewrites. Marlon Brando's role in the film was basically shortened because his daughter killed herself, I should say, leaving the production in limbo, and Marlon Brando pretty much just took control of the movie, and the director was fired from the film. They brought in Frankenheimer to try to save it. The film was delayed because of a hurricane. Just so many problems behind the scenes. It's been well documented in the documentary Lost Soul, the doomed journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau, which you should go and check out for yourself, because it's the equivalent to Hearts of Darkness. In fact, it's even more intense than Hearts of Darkness is. And Hearts of Darkness is an intense documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now. This somehow took it even more to another level, but like I said, I could delve more into this, but we've got a lot of things to get to, but you really could tell that this movie was going to be bad right from the get-go, and that commercial really shows an example of how badly they really did not market this movie well, which is surprising because the actual trailers actually made it look kind of interesting and look kind of cool, but wow, that commercial looked terrible, and let that be the catalyst for what you're about to see with this film. I mean, it pretty much delivers everything that was wrong with the film. It was filled with a lot of production problems. Everybody on the set hated each other. Their story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The writing overall is not that great. The sequences with the animals is not really all that intriguing. It really has no idea what the hell it wants to accomplish with this. And there was just really no way that this movie could be saved afterward. And you could definitely see on screen why that was. This was just a mess. This is a film that's just a mess on so many levels. Watch the documentary if you want to get a better experience on this, but avoid this movie like the plague, man. It's a disgusting, disgusting film. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is a very Brady sequel. On a much more positive note than Dr. Moreau, I remember thinking that this movie wasn't going to be anything nearly as good as the first film. I mean, the first Brady Bunch movie was a nice little surprise, but I recently checked the movie out a couple years ago, having not seen it for a number of years, and I gotta say, man, I actually found myself enjoying this a little bit more than the first movie, and I really liked the first film, but I found this a lot funnier than I expected it to be. I thought the satirical comedy actually worked a whole lot better this time around. It worked well in the first movie, but here I think they took it to another level, and I think it made it a whole lot funnier than you would have expected it to. The premise overall isn't really that interesting or surprising. It kind of goes with a formulaic route, but these performances still carry it through all the way. Like Gary Cole and Shelley Long are just perfectly cast as Mike and Carol Brady. You bring in Tim Matheson for a very good role in this. The subplots with the Brady kids are surprisingly really well done too. I mean, I was really surprised at how much I got a lot more out of this movie. It's one of the big surprises. Like, I think it's definitely a much more funnier, a much more enjoyable sequel than the already funny, enjoyable first film. I think it's definitely worth a watch. If you haven't seen this movie in a long time and you'd like the first Brady Bunch movie, definitely give this one another shot. I think it's a lot better than I think people give it credit for. I highly recommend it. A very Brady sequel. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next movie, and that is Mario Van Peebles in Solo. So after Mario Van Peebles had directed Panther, he was looking for a project that would provide him a more complex character to play, and felt Solo was, with its depictions of indigenous people under the threat of superior technology, provided opportunity to do so, and clearly wasn't the case, because, man, that did not look good at all, and the movie doesn't look any better either, despite the fact you've got Van Peebles, you've got William Sadler, you got Adrian Brody, you got Demian Bichar. You have a really good cast here, and a good idea, too, but it's your typical action movie fluff. It's not really all that engaging or that exciting. The performances are not very good. The action sequences overall are not that interesting at all either. It's just a waste of time on so many levels. And Mario Van Peebles does not usually make a whole lot of really bad career choices. This was one of his biggest ones, really. I mean, it's a film that's just a sloppy mess on so many levels. There could have been something more interesting and more intriguing in this, but it just doesn't show up here. It's a film that's really lackluster, and it definitely shows you right away in that commercial alone why it didn't work. It's a mess. It's no wonder why they just dumped this in late August, when the summer movie season was coming to an end, and nobody really wanted to see any of these newer movies, because 9 times out of 10, most of these movies did not really seem appealing to him, and this trailer pretty much shows you why Solo was not one of those films. So, let's go ahead and take a look at our next film, and that is Edward Burns' She's the One. So this is Edward Burns' follow-up to The Brothers Macmillan, and maybe it wasn't as good as The Brothers Macmillan was, but it still had some moments in there that I thought really worked. I thought it was still a very enjoyable film overall. I didn't hate it, but it definitely felt like a step down compared to his previous work. I mean, you got a really good cast here. It includes Burns himself. You got Cameron Diaz, Jennifer Aniston, John Mahoney. I think John Mahoney really is the strongest part of this movie. Leslie Mann's also in here. Amanda Peet, Frank Vincent. It's got a good cast overall. It's got some good ideas to it. I don't think it really did anything too significant to make it stand out on its own. Nothing bad about the film. It's just that it wasn't really up to par compared to what Burns had done the previous year before with The Brothers Macmillan, and that was a more enjoyable film. This film is, I would say, it's just okay. It's nothing too crazy. It's nothing too spectacular. It does have its funny moments here and there, but it doesn't really do anything to make it stand out on its own. It's a film that's just kind of like, it's good, but we expect a whole lot better from you after what you did with your previous film. But like I said, it isn't a terrible film at all. I just think it could have been a whole lot better, especially considering what he had done before then. But other than that, not a bad film. Definitely could have been a whole lot better, though. So She's the One. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next film, and that is Carpool. It's probably the best Tom Arnold film that he made in 1996, but then again, that really isn't saying a whole lot, because this movie really isn't all that great. It's a mostly bland, forgettable comedy. Like, I watched this when I was a kid growing up, and the only thing I really remember from it was how hot Rachel Lee Cook was as a teenager. I mean, granted, I was 7 years old at the time, but I mean, they did a pretty good job of making her look attractive in this movie. But other than that, though, the jokes are pretty bland and forgettable. The comedy really isn't all that strong. I remember renting this movie several times back when we had a video store around here, but I haven't really seen it in nearly 20 years, so I can't remember if I really doubt it's any good or not. And that Superior Duck short that they talked about in here, I actually really like that short. I know it gets kind of a bad rap from most people, but I thought it was honestly the best thing to come out of the movie here. It's still very funny. It's classic Looney Tunes. It's Chuck Jones animation. I mean, it's got a lot of good funny moments in it. I mean, it's not the best of those shorts that were coming out in front of these Warner Brothers movies, but I'd gladly take it over the actual movie itself. Like, this is one of those movies where I kind of would have been just like, I'll go just to see the short, and then just say, hey, I gotta go. Can I get my money back from the movie theater and just leave? I mean, that really is what I would have done, honestly. I mean, but yeah, not much more on that front. Carpool, pretty forgettable film, regardless. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is The Spitfire Grill. So basically, you have a story about a woman who was just released from prison and goes to work at this cafe that's called the Spitfire Grill. I really literally know nothing else about the film, except that it's directed by the guy that created MacGyver. It's the only movie I know that he's ever directed. Ellen Burstyn's in it. Marcia Gay Harden is in it. I wish I had some more for you, but really, I know nothing about this movie. Apparently, it was turned into an off-Broadway musical a couple years later, so it did have some kind of an impact on the entertainment industry for somebody that want to go ahead and do that. But I literally know nothing about this movie. I've never seen it before. I can't really say if it's good or not. Judging by the reviews I see for it, it's a very polarizing film. It got strong word of mouth at the Sundance Film Festival that year, but when the movie actually came out, it was very much less favorable. which is usually what you get when it comes to Sundance films. Sometimes they can be real gems all the way through, but then sometimes people like it there, but when the general public goes to see it, it's not that good of a film to begin. When it's all said and done. I wish I had some more for you, but that's pretty much all I got for you on that one. So that's the Spitfire Grill. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next film, Angelina Jolie in Foxfire. All I know about this film is that Angelina Jolie is in it, and so is Jenny Lewis and Kathy Moriarty. I've never seen it before. You basically get the idea that it's a coming-of-age story with these 4 high school girls to meet up. They meet up with this mysterious and beautiful drifter, and that's really all I know about it. I've never seen this movie before. I've seen the box for this on DVD several times with Angelina Jolie on the front, but other than that, I literally know nothing about this movie. I don't know if it's any good or not. It's got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that could probably mean something right there, but I don't know. I can't really say if it's good or not, but it's a movie that came out this weekend, so that's really all I got for you on that one. So that's Foxfire. Let's go to the last film. The last film that we have here, Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland in Freeway. Also from the director that made Gary Oldman is a dwarf in Tiptoes. Matthew Bright is that director. Kiefer Sutherland, Reese Witherspoon, Brooke Shields in it. It's a dark twist on the story of Little Red Riding Hood. This is another one I used to see a lot when I go to CD Warehouse. There's usually a DVD of this somewhere. I've never really had the opportunity to really watch it, but the idea of doing something kind of like a dark take on Little Red Riding Hood on this could actually be pretty interesting and pretty intriguing. You got Sutherland, Witherspoon, Shields, Dan Hedaya is also in here, Amanda Plummer, Bokeem Woodbine. It's produced by Oliver Stone. I mean, there's definitely pieces there that could make this movie work. It's got some pretty good reviews, too, so unfortunately, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say if it's actually that good or not, but the trailer definitely showed a lot of promise to it, honestly. When I watched the whole thing, it looked like it could have been a pretty cool-looking film, but until I actually see it, that's really all I could say about it. So, Freeway, that's the last film on the list here. So on that note, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we head to Labor Day weekend 1996 with 4 movies, including the sequel to The Crow City of Angels, Sinbad and the Comedy First Kid. We also have The Trigger Effect, and yet another Tom Arnold movie. This is probably his worst movie that he did in 1996, John Landis's The Stupids. And that title is more than you think it would be, so we got that to look forward to. 4 movies next time around, but until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.